of October 20 to 26, 1994, in the international waters of the Black Sea, took place the Sea Partner 94 exercise, organized by the United States 6th Fleet from the Mediterranean Sea. The military exercise was made with the participation of 10 ships from the following countries: 2 ships from USA, 2 ships from Bulgaria, and 1 ship each from Italy, Greece, Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, and Romania. Several specific naval exercises were scheduled, including a shooting drill planned to begin on October 22. This exercise was postponed by 24 hours due to extremely unfavorable weather conditions, specifically a severe grade 6 storm. Thus, the military maneuvers began on October 23 at 10 a.m. and extended into the first part of October 24 under rough sea conditions ranging between grades 3 and 5. The theme of the exercise was firing with 76mm guns on a marine target, launched from the American military oiler, Platte. The exercise was conducted from aboard the USS Doyle. Observation of the shooting results was carried out from the air from aboard a military helicopter launched from the USS Doyle and also from aboard the 10 participating ships. At its core, the military exercise appeared to be extremely simple, namely, each ship was supposed to fire at the target, nicknamed by those aboard the Platte as the Killer Tomato. The marking of the enemy was done for 8 minutes from a minimum distance of 6 kilometers or 3.25 miles. The result of the military exercise, which I will detail, was more than surprising. None of the participating ships managed to hit the target. All participants in the exercise expected radar target acquisition and fire control jamming, no surprise there, but no one expected what followed, namely, being unable to hit a target framed in sight through optical and electronic optical aiming means. It goes without saying that while the Americans came with the USS Doyle frigate to test their passive defense means and capabilities, the Russians came equally prepared to test their countermeasures against radar jamming fire control. Furthermore, I will not analyze the capabilities of radar jamming but rather the fact that visually directed fire at the target had no effect whatsoever for any of the shooters. The first ship to engage the target was the Bulgarian frigate. After carrying out the standard shots for 8 minutes, the commander of the Bulgarian corvette Rezatelny, a Soviet-made military ship, decided to approach the target at a distance of only 3 nautical miles, a distance lower than the preset one, and continue shooting, but surprisingly, with no result. The Russian frigate, Bezukhorizny, surely equipped with the latest electronic equipment available to assert its supremacy and especially to test American radar jamming techniques, did not hit the target during the regulation 8 minutes. Enraged and wounded in pride, the Russians did not withdraw from the firing line and continued shooting at the target for another 30 minutes with all the onboard weaponry. During these 30 minutes, over 150 salvos were fired, and none of them hit the target. Obviously, during these 30 minutes, the Russians attempted to direct their fire both through telemetry and radar sighting of the target, as well as through visual sighting in combined means, and certainly, if available, they used laser or infrared target sighting. Frankly, I believe the captain would have personally swum to plant explosives on the target if he could, just not to lose face in front of the Americans, but that's just my opinion. Yet, they didn't hit the target even once. Immediately after the Russian frigate, the Romanian frigate Mareșești entered the exercise, a ship built in Romania in 1985. Captain Alexander Tyran, having already witnessed the Russian frigate's inability to hit the target, after the first 2 missed shots, corrected the trajectory visually, firing in groups, but from a distance of 6 cables left of the target. 6 cables mean 1.11 kilometers or 0.6 miles. Although the distance was very close and could have hit even with a slingshot, the Romanian frigate did not hit the target. Neither the Greek frigate Adrias, nor the Turkish Karadeniz, nor the Ukrainian Slavutic, nor the Italian Otis performed any better, and the target remained untouched regardless of the aiming method, weaponry used, distance from the target, or military expertise. The cause of the described phenomenon remained a mystery even now, almost 30 years after the event. The specialists participating in the exercise tried to explain the causes of the successive misses, and it is noteworthy that none of them fit within the parameters of known military techniques. 1. Projectiles failed to penetrate some sort of a protective zone formed around the target. 2. The target was not where it was aimed when fired upon, different spatial location. 3. The target was not in the firing spatial location at that moment, different time. The conclusion drawn from these explanations is that the target had a different spatiotemporal location, with the fire being executed on a virtual target. And now let's move through time and space. Let's go back 81 years ago and move about 8,000 kilometers westward, more precisely to Philadelphia, in 1943 aboard the USS Eldridge. And that's it. Now we teleport back to the present because many of you will raise an eyebrow or want to close this video. The veracity of the experiment was debunked by the testimonies of veterans from the American destroyer, as well as the ship's logbook from that period, which clearly states that the USS Eldridge was not only on a mission in the Bahamas, but also did not even dock in the port of Philadelphia throughout the year 1943. Furthermore, the only witness to this event, the mysterious Carl Allen, an extremely controversial character, was not credible at all. On the other hand, we all know that anything can be falsified, any statement depends on the circumstances in which it was made. Anyone's public image can be compromised or constructed from scratch in the desired direction. I will not further comment on the Philadelphia experiment because it has been analyzed millions of times, and I don't believe I can contribute to the story, but I can't help but notice the similarity between the two events. But I can't resist speculating a bit. The Cold War had barely ended a few years ago, and relations between the US and Russia were beginning to thaw. The competition between the two countries was still fierce, and the arms race by any means necessary, let's not kid ourselves, was always a constant. But let's analyze the context of the event and try to extract a few ideas. 1. The participating countries. Russia would have never made public that the US had developed a new defensive weapon that the whole world could only dream of. That would have been like saying out loud, "Comrades, the Americans are 100 years ahead of us. While we develop weapons, they make sure our weapons can't hit the target." On the other hand, presenting a new generation of weapons in this context represented a strong deterrence element. Now let's analyze the other participating countries. Italy is an old friend of the US, both countries being founding members of NATO. Greece and Turkey, partners in the same alliance since 1955, with Greece benefiting from the Marshall Plan after World War II. Romania and Bulgaria, at that time two countries aspiring to join the North Atlantic Alliance. And now Ukraine. In October 1994, Ukraine was on the verge of signing the Memorandum of Budapest, which would guarantee security assurances from the United Kingdom, the US, and Russia in exchange for the surrender of its nuclear arsenal to Russia. Here it is worth noting, Ukraine did not surrender its nuclear weapons until it reached an agreement with the US and the United Kingdom because a treaty only with Russia was worth no more than the paper it was written on. Summarizing, we can easily draw the conclusion that all 6 countries were allies or aspiring to be allies or protégés of the US. 2. The place. Until Romania and Bulgaria joined NATO, the Black Sea meant to America as well as to Western Europe, nothing more than a Russian lake. The Eastern European region represented a still sufficiently gray area, and information from this area reached the West quite slowly, with people having a mindset of hiding the truth ingrained at the DNA level. 3. The moment. As mentioned earlier, it was a period of thawing bilateral relations between the US and Russia. Boris Yeltsin had just hinted in Washington on September 27, 1994, that he would wish, quote, not to have to drag around nuclear briefcases to every meeting, end quote. However, after the signing of the Budapest Memorandum, the same Yeltsin, the very next day, on December 6, spoke out against NATO expansion and began what he himself called the Cold Peace. It was a period of muscle flexing, where behind the apparent friendly relations, there were tensions and deterrence strategies, each pursuing its own agenda. I refrain from drawing clearer conclusions. Pros and cons arguments will always exist. I suppose this is the risk of long-standing policies of hiding the truth and covering up events. No one believes anything anymore and the public is in constant confusion, leaving room for any interpretations or conclusions. Furthermore, I want to present the official editorial Romanian Navy magazine, which presented the event. Obviously, certain details were not made public, but it was clearly stated that the target could not be hit by any of the frigates participating in the exercise. More precisely, quote, the killer tomato was not destroyed by anyone, which did not mean that the shots were ineffective. Hitting within a certain perimeter is sufficient, end quote. I believe this addition was made only to soothe egos and avoid unwanted questions from the public. Now I can only hope that the future will not put us in front of a new world war, and that the less conventional weapons and strategies will remain in the laboratories where they were conceived. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on the topics discussed in this video? Do you believe in the veracity of historical events, or do you think there's more to the story? I'd love to hear your opinions, so please feel free to leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. Your insights and perspectives are invaluable to our collective understanding.